In this video, something explosive. Hey everybody, it's Adrian from Zanza's Toys. This video is going to be a little different in that it's not about making something new, but rather taking a toy that I really liked as a kid that's pretty hard to find and kind of resurrecting it for the modern age. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, Kenner had this line called the Building Blaster line. Here's one of the boxes for one of the sets. There were only ever 6 sets released. We see Building Blasters, and you see this building that's kind of falling apart. So that was the key gimmick. Here you'll see this is the structure you can make, and what it was is you have these uprights and these kind of like horizontal pieces that sit loosely. But if you push up on any of the horizontal pieces, the whole thing kind of comes tumbling down. So you build something, and then you blast it. And each set came with a different detonator. So this set, the Rocket Booster set, I think had the best one, and that it had a sort of an egg timer with a plunger that would come up. It was great fun. I get how this seems kind of a little bit in poor taste. If you think that, I don't blame you. At least for me as a kid, this was just really, really fun. Another nice thing about it is these pieces go together really easily. They kind of have to, so that they can easily fall apart. That also means that you can build relatively large structures really quickly. I got some of these off eBay, and my 4-year-old and I have been having a great time with them. He doesn't really like blowing them up so much, but he loves that he can build a big structure pretty easily and quickly. You know, if you try to build something on the scale of this out of Legos or Duplos or what have you, it would take a lot longer and require more parts. I think these are really fun, and after some eBaying, I have a fair number of parts in even one of the boxes. So that's great for me, but what about all of y'all? So if other people would like to play with us, it's a little hard to find. I don't think this line was ever that popular. Didn't get produced for very long. If you find it on eBay, it's not always that easy to come by. So what I've done is I've started recreating the parts as 3D printable files. There are definitely a lot of parts, but what I've done so far is to recreate the basic set. So the base piece, the uprights, the horizontal members, both the full length and shorter, and diagonal horizontal members. And that's enough to get you a lot of what you need to build even big structures. So here we see a structure built with the actual original pieces. And here we see the same structure built with my parts in orange. Okay, so let's look at how these parts go together. Here are some of the original parts from the actual Kenner sets. So what we've got is we have a base part. We have horizontal parts. They're made to look like I-beams, which is fun. We have an upright. And then we have a couple other parts. There's a shorter part and a diagonal part. These are both meant to be horizontal pieces. So the fundamental way that this set works is you have here in the base, there's a little hollow there. And then each of the horizontal parts have sort of a hook-like shape. And so what that does is it just hooks in like that. And then you put an upright on top. So that's the fundamental unit that makes this all work. But what makes it fly apart in fun ways is that if you look at this, let's look at the bottom of the upright. So here's the top. We can see that the top of the upright just replicates the base, right? So we see that same shape repeating. So as you build up, you can keep adding horizontal pieces. But if you look at the bottom of the upright, we see there's these flanges. So if I have a horizontal part, put it in the base, and then put a vertical part, an upright, on top, pushing up on this horizontal part makes the upright come apart as well. So that's how it works. And that's pretty much it. So I just want to kind of compare and contrast. So here's the original upright, and here's my replacement. And basically all this was just a lot of measuring with calipers and some relatively simple work in FreeCAD. Here's our horizontal part, and here's my version, which I think came out pretty great. It's got a little bit of messiness on one side from the supports, but I will say that one of the things that really makes this work is tree supports. If you end up printing this, I highly recommend printing with this on the bed. Now that does mean that you'll need some supports to hold up this interior part, but it also means that these hooks will be printed in an orientation that makes them much stronger than they would be if you printed with like this part on the bed. I did that at first, but then these hooks were breaking off a lot. But if you print with this on the bed, then these hooks end up being, it kind of plays to the strengths of 3D printing. It will require support, but if you use tree supports, it's not bad at all. So that's our horizontal parts. Once I had that, it was easy enough to make shorter horizontal parts too. And for the bases, I actually printed this test piece out first. I just wanted to make sure that the parts would fit appropriately. And then once I had that, I went back and added all the cosmetic details. So here's the final version where we get these, I don't know, sort of sci-fi-ish details. And then there's the diagonal part. Now this is, I intentionally made a little bit differently. And I think it's kind of interesting to talk about why. Here's our horizontal part, right? That I just replicated the original as closely as I could. And what we see is kind of a conventional I-beam. So we have a flat part at the top in both pieces, right? So flat and flat. And then from the side, we get this nice little, these details of sort of reinforcing members and rivets. So that's really nice, right? But on the original diagonal part, we see that that's different. So these sit like this, like that. And on the original part, the flat is to the side and the reinforcing members are top and bottom. And the reason for that has to do with how these are made. So these parts, like pretty much every other mass-produced bit of plastic in the world, toy or not, are injection molded. So that means that there's two parts of a mold that squish together, get filled with plastic, and then come apart. And that has some design constraints. Okay, so here's the hook, right? Just like we have on the normal horizontal part. And that has to be able to, a mold has to be able to come apart like that. This part has to be oriented with one part of the mold coming from this side and another from this side. And that means that these hollow parts kind of have to be on these two sides rather than these two sides. So Kenner made a decision, which I think is totally the right move for injection molded parts, to rather than have a much more complex mold with multiple parts, if they just swapped the reinforcing bits from here to here, they can make this in a conventional two-part mold, which is cheap and effective. I updated that with my parts so that the reinforcing part members are on the sides, just like on the normal horizontal part. So we get a little more consistency that way, which is nice. And since we're 3D printing these rather than using an injection mold, that's fine. So again, though, I do recommend that if you print these, print them with this part on the bed. Again, that means you'll need some supports, but it means that these flanges will be much stronger than they would be otherwise. And you get a nice I-beam look. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. I had a blast making these. It was really fun to revisit something I enjoyed as a boy and ensure that my son and I can continue to enjoy it in the future. I'd also love to hear from y'all. What do you think I should add to the system? Because now that I've got the base parts, I can both make some of the more exotic parts that were in the 6 sets, or additional parts that maybe were never released. So love to hear from you if you've got some ideas. And as always, thanks so much for watching. And if you'd like to see more indie toy design and production videos, please remember to subscribe and like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.